In December of 2015, Ubisoft Montreal released Rainbow Six Siege. It was met with positive critical praise and accrued a following of dedicated players, but for whatever reason, be it unstable servers, a lack of game modes, or a general waning interest in the Rainbow Six brand, Siege underperformed. It quickly faded from the wider video game conversation. But what happened next has become common knowledge. Rainbow Six Siege became one of the most prominent comeback stories in modern video games. 6 months after release, it had reached 10 million players. 1 year after that, it had crossed 20 million. And as of now, as you're watching this video, Rainbow Six Siege has more than 27 million players. If early sales estimates were accurate, then Ubisoft's tactical shooter has increased its player base by about 900% in only 2 years. Some credit this meteoric rise to the game's tactical possibilities, which seem to multiply the more you play it. Others cite Ubisoft's attention to its community and its transparency with patches, maintenance, and improvements. But most would agree it's the free DLC that has spurred all of this momentum. The updates are broken into 4 seasons each year, with new maps, modes, and, of course, operators. These are the lifeblood of Rainbow Six Siege. They add variables and layers to every match. They're the characters that people learn, practice with, and grow attached to. They add personality to a game that could otherwise be a macho-looking military shooter. In the weeks prior to each Rainbow Six update, it's the new operators that fans fixate on, scouring for leaks that might reveal each hero's unique abilities or character traits. And to hear Ubisoft tell it, operators are the central pillar of Siege's design. So we traveled to Montreal during the Rainbow Six Invitational to talk to the developers about the introduction of new operators and how they lend more life to Rainbow Six Siege.
I come from my first school in terms of gameplay is shooter. Since Doom I'm shooter player. But on my road I discovered also the RTS. With StarCraft, Warcraft, etc. And also the MOBA game like Dota, etc. And on the side I was extremely skill-based. On the other side I was kind of brain-based. And as soon as I had the right to do what I want on this project, I merged both worlds.
In FPS, in a normal FPS, the stars of the FPS are the weapon. In Rainbow Six Siege, okay, you're shooting, sure, but you're not doing only that. You're using ability, you're using power, using strategy. So then it makes the character standing out, a bit like more a fighting game and stuff like that.
With the game overall, what we're trying to do is build a game that can sustain the time, that in 10 years you will still be playing that game. Those operators obviously having evolved, having changed, having learned new play styles, but that's pretty much what we are ambitioning.
By definition, the game is a sandbox. That's why we took the decision to have destruction. Destruction, it's about potential, okay? It's like sand, okay? And on the other side, you have the operators. Operators are tools to play with the sand. And it comes from this fusion, what you will bring into the game, you as a player. And it's called creation. And this has no limit.
We were surprised for those last 2 years on how much the community, took our operator, took our universe, and make the whole story.
When the game was launched and moving forward, we started to see people picking on individuals. And over the course of the past year, that's how we started to approach the creation of new characters. Like, they are not a unit or a group anymore, they are essentially an individual. So how do you make a military guy or girl stand out as an individual? So that's really the challenge, and it started indeed with the 2 GROM operators, Ella and Zofia, injecting much more backstory, much more even relationship between those characters that are obviously not gameplay but purely narration. And moving forward, I think that's really the ambition, to build up those characters' backstory, interaction between them, why not love stories between the different ones, existing and new. I think that's the ground that we are going to start investigate soon.
And don't forget one thing, if you remember, but they did it in a different way, the first Rainbow Six, the first one had operators. Ding Chavez, a long list of named operators with different skill. It was not developed like what we are doing right now, because it's absolutely unique, in terms of development, characterization, but they were already on this kind of approach. When we are working on an operators, we are building a story, a backstory, a power, a specific ability, and also a list of who are the friends of this operator, who are the enemies of these operators. But it's never enough. a part of the real game will come directly from what player invented. For instance, the bandit trick. I don't know if you know the bandit trick. We never imagined such a mechanic. Never in design we had an idea about someone trying to destroy the breaching charge just by placing it quickly, and it's purely community driven. Because you were already creating, imagining something. This is the golden mine we are looking for. You know, we don't want to write everything. We are players, multiplayer players first. We know, how players think. And me, when I want to bring myself into a game, I want to bring also my creativity. I want to create something. I want to think about the game. I want to think about the meta. Not only when I'm playing, but also when I'm walking into the street. It has to be part of my mind.
In an interview with PC Gamer last year, Remy famously said the team is aiming for a total of 100 operators over the next 10 years. Because of this roadmap, Ubisoft also said it has no plans for a sequel. Siege is doing so well that their only focus is supporting it as a service in the years to come. And why wouldn't they? Siege's post-release explosion is nothing short of astonishing, and its numbers are only growing. And with this influx of players comes a new set of problems. How do you maintain the health of your game while also continuing to grow? How do you balance a roster that might eventually rival that of Dota 2? And how do you create so many powerful characters that still feel somewhat rooted in real life?
I thought Mira would be the first example. Really at that time I was like, okay, maybe this is a limit that we can go, like making a wall invisible. I mean, like it's too much. It doesn't connect to military stuff. But we have insane and awesome people that always manage to find a twist and a way. And it's cool because in a way, having rules, having like to be always grounded, it's also like something that force you to be innovative and to think differently, because you still want to have the same kind of gameplay, but you can't do it like with the usual like super techno futuristic or magical whatever we don't explain.
5 seconds to insertion. Op 4 has eyes on the hostage.
I always feel like having rules is better than not having rules. Having constraints in terms of design is always better than having no constraints.
We never want to predict the meta before the players. Okay? The meta is named and defined by what's happening between this encounter between the developer's ID and the way the player will play the content. So to me, I consider the game as a bridge between us developers and the community. And the result, it's called the meta.
We are approaching it with the way where, what are the new territories of gameplay that we haven't yet done? We've done obviously the gadgets, we've done the breachers, we've done several families of design, and with the past season, which were more the intelligence and the observation phase, this season with Lion and Finca is essentially gonna be about the globals, meaning like abilities that are across the map and across all of the players within that map.
Finding our rats. Rabbit looking.
So it's how do you conquer new territories in terms of gameplay, keeping in mind that our ambition is one day to have 100 operators.
So Lion, when we are working on Lion, the idea of right now, it's really like Intel, it's a big part of this game, and we wanted to create an operator that give a more accessible way to get Intel, but still open for a counter play for the defending team. But on the opposite, as you mentioned, every time we pitch an operator, every time a designer come and pitch an operator, in the design document, we have a specific space in the template that is called counter play. And for example, Lion is counter by mute. If you put a mute jammer, you create an area where you can freely move, and there is no signal that is sent back to the group.
Then comes the narration of who are those two nationalities, who are those two characters, what is their backstory, how are they linked to the rest of the lore, what is their interaction between each other, what can we tell about them?
Caveira, for instance, a cool character, a character who want to maybe find an intel through an interrogation, you see? So often now we are also inspired by what kind of character is behind. It's not only game mechanics, now we are also inspired by just personality. And it's something we want to bring in the game. We want to add many faces, many personality coming from a lot of nations with different colors, it's something extremely important for us.
That's something that constantly came up in my chats with Siege's creators. Diversity. Not only its importance to the game's roster, but also its player base. Rainbow Six is growing, and as new operators come to the game, morph the meta, and gain their own dedicated fans, Siege will continue to reach new parts of the world. It may have realistic trappings and a military aesthetic, but Ubisoft is proud of the colorful universe it's creating. Siege has become one of the most played games today, alongside Overwatch, Dota 2, Fortnite, and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, largely because of its vibrant cast and dedicated community. And as Siege moves into its third year, it's showing no signs of slowing down.
Just in terms of game development, you want to have the maximum people playing your game. So the more you represent them, the more there is a chance for them to play your game. So yes, the more diverse we are, the better it will be for the community and for the game. So I mean, like at the end, in the next 10 or 20 years, we want to have done every country that have a CTU unit, because it's all about diversity, and you should see like how people are super happy when we are going into their country. It's insane the amount of love we receive, and so there is no reason for us to not do every country in the world, because everyone deserves love.